The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, joins me now. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for joining us today. Just a short distance from Capitol Hill over here at the D.C. studio. Do you have any reaction to that? Your thoughts on Hegseth versus potentially DeSantis and the defense role?
Well, I talked to Pete about 36 hours ago, and he was feeling pretty positive, pretty good about it. We were talking about people that he might select to help him in the Department of Defense. Look, we support the president. I mean, he has made some really strong nominations. He needs people who will come in and, let's be frank, shake up the status quo. And the Department of Defense needs some reform. We all know that. And Pete, I think, would do a good job at that. So I'm cheering for him.
So in order to carry out the president's agenda, you have to first win the speaker vote on January 3rd. Will you be asking Elise Stefanik to stay in place through that date to make sure that there are no hitches in that?
Yeah, I think both she and Mike Waltz will be in the chamber. They will leave after all of that happens, sometime in January. So we'll have the sufficient votes, and we'll get this done, and we'll move forward. We have a lot to do. We're going to have a very aggressive first 100 days agenda. The election gave us a mandate, gave President Trump and the Republican Party a mandate to fix everything. So we got to start on day one to do that.
Yeah, fixing everything is a heavy lift, and you got a lot of cats to herd up there. Yes. But in terms of the mandate, you know, you see the mandate in the White House. You see a strong mandate in the Senate. Yours is wobbly, 1 or 2 votes come January. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, says you don't have a mandate. Watch this.
Despite the claims of some of my Republican colleagues who have spent a lot of time over the last 2 weeks talking about some big, massive mandate, I'm looking for it. This notion of some mandate to make massive far-right extreme policy changes, it doesn't exist.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, I say we're going to restore common sense, and there's clearly a mandate. President Trump put a big mandate out there, and he delivered the big vote. We won the Senate with 53 votes. The House would have a larger majority, but redistricting and gerrymandering in the blue states made that almost impossible. But we do have the majority. We know how to govern with that small majority. We've been doing it for a year. We will fill those seats. There'll be 3 vacant when we start, so it'll go from 220 to 217. That is razor thin, but it'll only be for a few months. And we're very confident that we'll get qualified governing conservatives put back in those seats, and we'll grow that margin as we go.
So we're going to talk more about cutting spending in the next segment. But in terms of priorities for the first 100 days, here is John Thune, your counterpart in the Senate, talking about what he sees as the priorities this morning on America's Newsroom Watch.
In order for us to be successful here, we have to be unified coming out of the gate. The key is getting the things that he campaigned on, the border, energy dominance, national security, rebuilding our military, extending the Trump tax cuts. Those are all things in the end that we have to accomplish. How we get there is what we're discussing.
So in terms of the first thing on the agenda, he said border first. Then he said defense spending. When you spoke at the stock exchange, you put extending the Trump tax cuts as number 1. We've heard from Ron Johnson as well. Extending the tax cuts, we can handle that a little bit down the road. What is first for you?
These are all big priorities. We have to do them all early in the Trump administration because we'll have the largest tax increase in U.S. history all at once. I mean, trillions of dollars by the end of the year if we don't get the Trump tax cuts extended. So everybody that you've just named knows that's a big priority, but also border and also all these other things. Energy policy, we want to maintain peace through strength again, restore that principle.
Will you and Thune and President Trump say, okay, here we go. This is number 1, yes. This is number 2, this is number 3. And do you have that order yet?
Yes. Look, we designed a playbook. Let me use my football metaphors, okay? We worked on a playbook for about a year, so we have the menu of options in front of us. Leader Thune and I, John and I, were talking as recently as within the last hour about the priority of how we do it and what sequence. So the sequence is less important than the idea that we actually put those points on the board. And we will, and everybody's excited. I spent an hour yesterday with all the Senate Republicans in their conference when they were getting together to talk about the issues. And we're very, I think, dialed in, all of us, on having a bicameral approach. So we'll have the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans working as one team. What a concept. And unified government with President Trump in the White House will actually be able to accomplish all this for the American people. And everybody's excited to get going.
So what's number 1 on the list?
Well, look, you got to put border at the top of the priority list. We all agree on that. And the question is, how much of that can we get in the early, right out of the gates, and how much of it needs to be a couple of months down the road in terms of the sequence? Remember, the Senate is also going to be very deeply involved in confirmations of all these cabinet appointees and everybody else. So it's clock management, using my game analogy.
Is it going to be HR2? I know Jordan has said, let's just do it right away.
So we'll be doing the budget reconciliation process as a big chunk of the first 100 days, and there are some limits on what you can do with regard to policy. I love H.R. 2. We're going to take as much of that as we can and put it into that process. The reason we use budget reconciliation is it only requires 51 votes in the Senate, not the 60-vote threshold. So we'll get as much of that done as we can in the early part. And then as the Congress goes further, we'll do other pieces. But we've got a lot to do, a big
So what's your
agenda.
estimate? How many days before you can pass H.R. 2 and have a border bill done?
Well, if we all get on the same page, I think we could get that done very soon. I think first maybe 15 days, really, for the border provisions. We'll probably have 2 reconciliation packages, and what we're doing right now is discussing what goes in which piece of that. So it hasn't been totally decided yet.
Okay. We will be right back with more from Speaker Johnson as he reveals the outlook for tomorrow's arrival. These 2 gentlemen come to Washington tomorrow, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. It should be very interesting to watch the Doge duo in action as they try to put their company's skills and how they, grow the bottom line by cutting spending. They say $2 trillion can come right out of this U.S. government waste. We're going to talk about that coming up next. So back with House Speaker Mike Johnson. Tomorrow, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be in Washington. The billionaire co-chairs of Doge will meet with lawmakers as they plot a path forward to slash spending in Washington. This has really never been done, certainly not in our lifetimes. Speaker Johnson is back with me now. Speaker, thanks again for being here. We're $35 trillion in debt. So the question is, how serious is this Congress about actual reform? Can they cut spending by $2 trillion, even though Congress doesn't have to sign off on all of that?
Well, we're going to see. Look, we're very committed to this. This is a core principle for us. Government is too big, it does too many things, and it does almost nothing well, and we need to scale it back down. We've always been advocates of limited government and individual freedom. And so here we have what I think, Martha, is a generational opportunity to make real transformational change to the administrative state, the deep state. We want to take a blowtorch to the regulatory state. And I think what Elon and Vivek have in mind can help us in that regard. And so I invited them both to come to the Hill because we want to get everybody together that has that same mindset. We'll be inviting all the Senate and House Republicans together to a big sort of brainstorming session because we need to do that early in the process so we can formulate what the actual plans are.
So it looks like you're going to have Democrat support on this. This is Jared Moskowitz. This is what he just said moments ago. And we know Rahm Emanuel, who wants to be the head of the DNC, also says Democrats get involved with Doge. Watch.
There's going to be other Democrats, I think, that join the caucus. Donald Trump has proven the way you communicate now is not to leave a vacuum. You go everywhere where we disagree. If it's on Social Security or Medicare, I'm going to push back. But if there's agreements because, hey, we can find hundreds of billions of dollars to save the American people, we should make that a bipartisan issue.
Okay, so tell me some cuts that Congress does have control over that you think Democrats and Republicans can agree on.
Well, we've got a long list of areas where we know there are waste, fraud, and abuses. And Oversight Committee's been doing a lot of aggressive work on that. Well, in the Oversight Committee in the House, we've just created a new subcommittee that will be laser focused on that, finding the places for the easy cuts. And then it's about scaling back the regulatory state. I mean, we use the term weaponization. That's what's happened over the last 4 years, that most of these 3-letter agencies that are supposed to be serving the people are actually working directly against them and their interest. We have whole industries that have faced existential threats to their very existence because they're literally being smothered with red tape. And so it's a lot of methodical work that it takes to go through and reduce and restore the freedom
with
in the free market.
With all respect, Speaker, so some people listen and go, okay, we got a subcommittee. We got it's going to take a while, understandably. But, you look at the example in Argentina, Milei, there, the president, has cut 10% of the workforce. He has shuttered 13 government agencies. He's doing things that nobody thought was possible, that economists up and down said, you can't do that. You can't do that. And he's doing it. Musk wants to take government agencies from 428 to 99. Can it be done?
We certainly hope so. We want to be willing partners in that. And we have a new ability to do this now. Remember, the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine, right? That's a game-changing kind of situation. Not in my lifetime, but we had the opportunity to go in and really take back control from the administrative state. For a long time, they've been acting as judge, jury, and executioner on the rules that they make on industries and small business owners and the rest. So we have the ingredients, we have the conditions right now to actually be able to make really dramatic change. And we're going to go through through and have those discussions, those brainstorms to see. But you're going to have willing partners in the House and Senate among the Republican
But you're also going to have
conferences.
so many people who are pushing back.
Oh, of course.
My donors, the lobbyists that I promised things to, they're not going to go for that, and I won't get reelected if I let you cross that off on our list. So what are you going to do about that?
Well, you're going to have a president that's bold enough to do it. We have our own version of the Argentinian leader, right, with Donald Trump. And I've used the blowtorch analogy rather than a chainsaw, but it's all the same. We do have to scale back the size and scope of government. It serves the people. It unleashes the free market again. Our policy changes will be a part of that, but I think that if we can make some dramatic changes in downsizing the scale and scope of these things, we'll go a long way in
So two specific examples, Planned Parenthood and PBS, are in congressional control. Are you planning to axe both of those?
I would like to, that's for sure.
Spending for both of those?
Yeah, we got to build consensus to have the votes to do that. Now, some of this will be done by executive order out of the White House.
Absolutely.
He has a broad authority to do a lot of that.
Yes.
But where Congress is involved, that's where it takes the hard work of legislating and getting everybody on the same page. So there'll be lots of ideas that come out. We don't want to put too many of it out right now, okay? But this is part of that, preparing the playbook to unleash and unroll in January.
Well, we know that something like 70% of those polled said they wanted significant change.
Yes, they do.
In the American government system, and it all falls on your shoulders.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
No pressure.
But that's what we want, too.
But it doesn't. You're right. Like those two Supreme Court decisions are things that don't need to go through Congress. So there'll be baskets of areas of responsibility, and we look forward to watching it all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good to have you with us.
Great to be with you.
Speaker
Thanks so
Mike
much.
Johnson, thank you very much.